Directions. Below are two sources dealing with factory conditions in England during the 1830s. Read both sources and answer the questions that follow. Document 1. The Sadler Committee Report. In 1832, there was a committee that investigated life in the factories for the workers. It was called the Sadler Committee. One of the first people called in to testify was Elizabeth Bentley, a 23-year-old woman who started working in the factory when she was 6 years old. Here are the questions and her answers taken directly from the transcript of the investigation. Elizabeth Bentley called in and examined. What age are you? 23. What time did you begin to work at a factory? When I was 6 years old. At whose factory did you work? Mr. Busk's. What kind of mill is it? A flax mill. What were your hours of labor in that mill? From 5 in the morning till 9 at night, when they were thronged. Thronged means grouped together. For how long a time together have you worked that excessive length of time? For about half a year. What were your usual hours when you were not so thronged or grouped together? From 6 in the morning till 7 at night. What time was allowed for your meals? 40 minutes at noon. Had you any time to get your breakfast or drinking? No, we got it as we could. And when your work was bad, you had hardly any time to eat at all? No, we were obliged to leave it or take it home, and when we did not take it, the overlooker took it and gave it to his pigs. Do you consider doffing a laborious employment? Yes. What is it that you had to do? When the frames were full, they had to stop the frames and take the flyers off, and take the full bobbins off, and carry them to the roller, and put empty ones on, and set the frame going again. Does that keep you constantly on your feet? Yes, there are so many frames, and they run so quick. Your labor is very excessive? Yes. You have not time for anything. Suppose you were flagged a little, or were too late. What did they do? Strap us. Strapping is like getting hit with a belt. Are they in the habit of strapping those who are late and doffing? Yes. Constantly? Yes. Girls as well as boys? Yes. Have you ever been strapped? Yes. Severely? Yes. Could you eat your food well in that factory? No, indeed, I had not much to eat. And the little I had, I could not eat it. My appetite was so poor, and being covered with dust, and it was no use to take it home. I could not eat it, and the overlooker took it and gave it to the pigs. You were speaking of the breakfast? Yes. How far had you go to for dinner? We could not go home for a dinner. Where did you dine? In the mill. Did you live far from the mill? Yes, 2 miles. Had you a cook? No, we had not. Supposing you had not been in time enough for the morning meals, what would have been the consequence? Morning. Were you tardy getting to the mills? We should have been quartered. What did you mean by that? If we were a quarter of an hour too late, they would take off half an hour. We only got a penny an hour, and they would take half a penny more. Means you were fined half of your hour's worth of pay if you were any time late. The fine was much more considerable than the loss of time. Yes. Document 2. Edward P. Cheney. An Introduction to the Industrial and Social History. Chacuta, New York, The Chacuta Press, 1910. This source is an account of factory conditions of the time of the Sadler Committee. It was written by Edward P. Cheney, a historian writing in 1901. Children from 7 years of age upward were engaged by the hundreds from London and the other large cities, and set to work in the cotton spinning factories of the North. Since there were no other factories for boarding them, apprentice houses were built for them in the vicinity of the factories, where they were placed under the care of superintendents or matrons. The conditions of life among these pauper children, pauper means poor, as might be expected, very hard. They were remotely situated, apart from the observation of the community, left to the burdens of the unrelieved labor and the harshness of small masters or foremen. Small in this case means like petty or mean. Their hours of labor were excessive. When the demands of trade were active, they were often arranged into 2 shifts, each shift working 12 hours, one in the day and another in the night, so that it was a common saying in the North that their beds never got cold, one set climbing into bed as the other got out. So imagine you're getting home from work and you go straight to bed, but it's not your own bed. You're getting into a bed that the person that's going out to work is just getting out of. When there was no night, the work in the day was that much longer. They were driven at their work and often abused. Their food was the coarsest description, and they were frequently required to eat it at their work, snatching a bite as they could while the machinery was still in motion. Much of the time should have been devoted to rest was spent cleaning the machinery, and there seems to have been absolutely no effort to give them any education or opportunity for recreation. The sad lives of these little waifs, overworked, underfed, neglected, abused, in the factories and the barracks of the remote clans of Yorkshire and Lancashire, came eventually to the notice of the outside world.